Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ma'am Joy. It is my first time to talk about a winning pitch or effective pitch. I don't know if I'm the right person for this. A talk that feels like revealing my secrets on winning research competitions. But because of so much love and respect to Ma'am Joy, even if it's already 4:20, I can't say no. So bear with this recording since I have a Thursday class too at 5 to 8 p.m. So I know you are all familiar with this quote. You never get a second chance to make a great impression. So this quote highlights the importance of making a positive and lasting impact during initial encounters or opportunities. It implies that the first impression you create is often the one that sticks with people. And it can be challenging to alter or change their perception of you later on. So remember when you first saw my professional biography? Napawaw ba kayo? With all the expectations I read from the Google form responses, it seems like it. And now it is hard to change that perception of you, of me already. Ang hirap bawiin, huwag kayong masyadong mag-expect. So, moving forward, these are the learning outcomes from your expectations and questions. I divided my talk into 4 parts. First, I'll be discussing key considerations in the planning of an oral presentation, identify elements to include, hide, or exclude in the slide deck of an oral presentation. Third is discuss key principles in the design of a slide deck for an oral presentation. And lastly, I think the most important part is to discuss key considerations for an effective oral presentation. So first things first, planning your oral presentation. So in here, I'll be talking about why do we bother giving presentations, formats and settings of oral presentations, structuring your talk, tailoring your presentation to different audiences, and practical considerations on planning an oral presentation. So I also inserted some of your expectations and questions in this talk. So I have this one. She have won many presentation awards, which can mean that she really knows how to present her study to the audience convincingly. I hope that through the talk, I can also learn how to. So I really know how to present the study and to the audience convincingly now. So let's look at why I really want to talk about the studies I present during research presentations. So first is I bother giving presentations, and for you also, when you give presentations, you also should have these purposes. First is to communicate our work to others. This is a key feature of scientific progress, which is building upon the work of others. And this only works if scientists share their work. So in our researches, we don't really work from scratch. We base from something. That's why we have RRL, and we have to have read several literatures before even conducting our research. So that is one. You communicate our work to others. Under this one, doing so also gives us or allows us to advertise our work and ourselves. So, binebenta natin yung research natin. Pinapaalam natin sa iba. We also market ourselves. So that's why I won several research competitions and awards because I made myself known about this part of studies. And when they talk about like public health researches, they already coined myself in our university. So that's how you market yourselves also. So also, we also want to talk about our work because we are passionate about it. I think this is the key word. We are passionate about it. We love what we're doing. Because if you don't want what you're doing, napilitan ka lang during thesis work mo, mapipilitan ka din sa presentation mo and you won't be confident in talking about your study at all. So next is solicit feedback and learn from others. Um, this is how I learned um, through the years of competing or presenting research studies to other people, to other stakeholders, to different audiences. So, different feedback. So, actually, parang memorize ko na kung anong itatanong nila sa akin. So, dati ko nang sinasabi kung ano yung mga ina-expect kong tanungin nila. Last year, I joined the National Oral Presentation for Faculty category for PNHRS. And then one judge there or one panelist is a public health from I don't know from US. And the presenters before me, he's asking the same questions like what's the significance of your study? What's the significance of the study to the community? So since um I've already heard what he was asking the other studies. I inserted that into my uh, research. So he actually highlighted that when I presented that I already know what he would be asking. So I already highlighted the impact of the study to him. So lastly is network with others. So this is network not only with the scientific community, but network with policy and decision makers, network with the community or lay audience, which should include your target population. Kasi para kanino ba yung research ninyo? So this is one question also or expectation. I expect that tips on how to present a pitch will be provided during the talk. A clear differentiation between pitch and ordinary presentations is also expected. So the first expectation on the tips, I think I have this at the latter part of the talk. And for the differentiation between pitch and ordinary presentations, I think this is that part. Under formats and settings of oral presentations. So oral presentations come in many different formats. You can have a short talk, or the shortest I had joined is a policy pitch in 2021. It's a 3-minute pitch and it comes with one slide only. And you will be presenting it to um, different stakeholders. It could be short talk, 5 minutes to 7 minutes. Actually, I also experienced that, but it's originally pegged for a 15-minute talk, but because of time constraint, they asked the presenters to make their talk 7 minutes, so impromptu at that time only. So you need to be fast to only present the important things about your study because they will be cutting you anytime after the 7-minute talk. There could be a mini symposium talk that's around 20 minutes, and there could be seminar talks like 50 minutes. Actually, if you are already expert to the study, you've done already like 10 to okay. Thank you. 50 minutes. So this is about if you have already done studies like 30 studies on this certain uh plant, for example, or about um a certain phenomenon. So 30 studies on that. Usually you are invited as a resource speaker for that. Secondly, oral presentations can also be delivered in different settings. So it could be in an informal presentation in a research lab or study group. It can be in a student congress also. Specialized audience, discipline specific conferences, for example, for like only pharmacist convention, chemist convention, only public health conferences, and it could be to a broad audience. Normally, when we experience the pandemic, all are given through Zoom and all are broadcasted online. So you have a broad audience. Next is structuring your talk. So first things first, what do you need to talk about? So first is, what is the key result or key message that you wish to convey? That is one that is important, that should be part of your talk. Why is this result or message important? So think about the broader context. And third, what is the unique contribution of this work? So what is the broader context of the problem? So what do you contribute and where do we go from here? So especially the 3-minute pitch that I've joined in, these are the three parts that should be there. You should show this. What is the key result or key message? This should be the impact of the study. Why is the result or message important? What is the gravity of the problem that will be solved with your research? And third is the, what is the unique contribution of this work, the novelty of the paper? What will it add on to what we have now? So structuring your talk, we have what you call the hourglass approach. I learned this from my epidemiology fellowship just last year. You start broad, talk about the problem, talk about what is that we know, get narrower. So normally this is the global statistics, national statistics, and then the regional statistics at your area, and then end broad, the significance of the study. So this is you talk about arguments, narratives, and data you will need to support your claims or conclusions. So you need to end broad, the impact or the significance of your study. So next is tailoring your presentation to different audiences. So think about who your audience is and what they can take away from your presentation. So if your audience are scientists in your area, they may be interested in details and precise conclusions because they can identify or pinpoint the problems or what's good with your research, what's different. But if your audience is like general audience, you can uh, talk in a broader term and conclusions that will affect them. Second is tailor your presentation to your audience. So, for example, scientists in your discipline will want to understand what motivates you and what broader conclusions and implications of your work are. You can also think through what your audience knows about your field and build your presentation assuming only this knowledge. So, the same competition that had last year, one paper there, um, she's a biochemist, and the audience really don't know about the topic because it's very detailed. And then even the panelists and the judges are not knowledgeable with this research. So it wasn't really engaging or appealing at all, although her paper is very, very good at her field. So next is we talk about practical considerations on planning an oral presentation. So you need to start early. So you get feedback and start early. You don't do what I do today, that I often do my slides on the day or the day before or early that day. Also get feedback often and as early as possible from mentors and peers. I remember one of you asked, "Do you have a mentor?" Yes, I do have. Uh, he gave me all the knowledge and the things that I need to learn in presenting and doing research. And also, I have a like a leg of research associates with me, so I partner with them. For example, for research presentations, we actually present in a group first before we even present it outside or in a competition. So third is write down the structure of your talk. This is a very important part of your presentation. You list down, even in broad terms, the parts of your talk. So when you list down, initially you write down everything you want to say, but be sure to cut this down as you iterate through your presentation. I know it's easy to go to your computer and already type in, start with your presentations already. So normally, what we do is you still have all the things in your mind that you want to present. So you list those down first. Next is you make sure arguments are presented logically and cohesively. So these should have data, graphs, or figures. So you need to minimize distraction and keep only those items that are essential. I know when you're doing your thesis or you're writing your research, you feel that everything is important, everything is essential. It's so hard to cut down when you're already presenting or writing your script for it. Next is make sure that you can support all arguments presented. So these are the data, the graphs or figures. You need to explain it. So it's not only data there, not only graphs, you need to present it. Normally these take time when you are explaining what's on the graph or on the figure. Lastly, you practice your talk. So being mindful of total time allotment and time allotment for each slide. So you need to have like usually one slide, 1 minute. But for lectures like this and talk like this, we often give more time for every slide. So slides or portions of your talk that are challenging to discuss should also be practiced, especially when you have only the figures. Normally, when I present for presentations, I have like minimal wordings and mostly figures alone, especially in the results part. So that is challenging to discuss since I don't have any cue cards with me. I need to memorize it. So actually, when I present already, I don't memorize it because I already know it by heart. So one student also said, I want to learn from the habits she formed along the way to be where she is now, to get a glimpse of her journey. So I actually started like you. I don't have any research background. My first background on research is the undergraduate thesis I had. I think it's on wound healing, property of the common legumes. So we made an ointment, we had sprag dolly rats. And then I actually did not jump to academe and became a researcher. After I think 2000, 10 years. After 10 years, I went to the academe, and from the academe, they already saw my potential for research. So they asked me, my mentor actually asked me to join his team, and he gave me series of um, seminars, conferences for me to gain knowledge on doing research. And then when he's doing proposals, actually he asked me to do it, the proposals. He joined me to all his research journeys. So I learned through him, by him pushing me to do proposals, for him pushing me to present for him in conferences. So he told me then that you can do this alone. You can be the head or you can be the project head of a research. So it's true experience. That's how I learned the habits. Just that when you're given an opportunity, grab it. It's for you. Even though it feels like it'll- it's hard. All things are hard for the first time. So we go to the second part of my talk under structure and content of the presentation. So although the content of the presentation varies depending on the type of work being presented, the type of talk, as well as other factors, this is the typical structure, and it includes opening slide, which includes the study title, authors, affiliations, and date. the background and study aims, the methods, the results, the discussions, references, and credits or acknowledgement. Normally, walang credits and acknowledgement na. So for the opening slide, we have like, this is the title slide. We have the presentation title. And note that this may be different from the title of the project from which data used for the presentation were derived. So it must adequately describe the main topic or message of the presentation in the fewest possible words and should not contain abbreviations with exceptions, of course, such as if you have agencies there, known agencies such as DOH, you don't have to spell it out. Then under presentation title, you should have the authors or affiliations. It's good practice to include all collaborators and a common practice for the presenting author to be the first author. And then you have the conference or date. So placing the conference and date when the presentation was made on the opening slide adds to your presentation's metadata so that even if PDF copies of your presentation slides are made available publicly, your work will be put in the right context. For the background, this should be brief, usually just one slide or maximum of two and no more. So in a presentation, the primary purposes of the background are to provide context for your work, to make clear what questions or question your work or that part of your work that you are presenting is designed to answer. So do not also include in your background explanation of what can be found in any reference material in the field, excessive references, or data or conclusions attendant to the research. Normally in the background, this is where you put like, according to WHO, one of 1 million people are affected of that certain disease that you are trying to focus on. And then what will you do with this problem? So this is the general organization. This is I learned from Doc Bermudez also. You have the known first, what is known about the topic of the presentation, the unknown or the gaps, the problems about that phenomenon, and then your in between here, the unknown and the question is the significance of your study, and then hence I will do this study. So the known, what is known, what you know about it, what you don't know about it, or what are the problems despite the known, then the significance of your study, if you do this study, hence I'm doing this study. So another expectation that I read from your responses, I expect to learn more about how to effectively convey the message behind a presentation or topic to persuade people into believing my research. So under the background of the study, you need already to catch the attention of your audience. What is the problem? So usually that is the hardest part when we're looking for a research topic. That's why we base our research topics from the NURA or from the RURA, from Ambition 2040, because they already know or what are the existing problems from this year to this year. So we don't talk about problems already that are not existing. For example, in last year's event, uh, 2 years ago, we had contender that has a research on COVID. So I already expected that this doctor will win, despite other things, despite how good the other presenters are. because his topic is timely, and that's what we need at that time. So this is how you look for a research topic when you're looking for it, since you are going to research pa lang. So how effectively will you convey the message behind the presentation of the topic? You make it relatable to your audience. You tell them how this research will help them, or how this research will help other people related to them. For methods, unless you're presenting methods work, the method section should also be succinct. So you should aspire to take a balance between detail and brevity, especially it depends on your panelists. And lastly, you only need to provide enough information to establish the validity of your study procedures. For me, usually, if I present experimental studies, this is only one slide and it's in a schematic format. But if I'm presenting a social science study, this part here could be two or more, kasi two or three slides, since I need to present the sampling technique, the limitation, inclusion, exclusion of the study. But for experimental, one slide will do. So if your audience has more specific questions about your methods naman, you can entertain these at the end of your presentation. But usually this is only very brief. So the methods section should be thought out carefully and presented in sufficient detail. So normally, this is where you have more time in doing your PowerPoint presentation. So you need to describe how the problem was studied for social science. You do not describe the previously published procedures. And for data analysis, for this one, normally we do not put it already because of limitations in space and time. So these are often skipped, or you can hide this if a need arises. For example, you heard that the one panelist is already asking the other groups before you about their data analysis. You can unhide it from your presentation. For the results, this is the section which constitute the bulk of your presentation. So present only results that are relevant to the topic of your talk. So more so, if you are presenting only part of a broader work. So results should be being presented should be clear and easy to understand. You only highlight main findings in your presentation and feature unexpected findings, as this could be the most interesting part of your research, and avoid presenting shaky preliminary data or inconclusive results. So for me, my results part of the presentation, it's results and discussion already. I have already one figure there. It's either a graph or a table or any illustration. And then I memorize the discussion part. So I don't really put the narrative onto the slide itself. Or I can make bullets so that I won't forget any important part of the figure. So these are samples of constructing tables for conference presentations. Um, you need to align the numbers on the decimal point like this, or on the right in the absence of decimal places, so that their relative value is clear. Do not center the numbers in a column unless they are of the same magnitude. This is another example. You use only minimal decimal places and be consistent with the number of decimal places used. Kailangan OC kayo sa table because at one snapshot, makikita na nila kung maganda ba yung result mo, pangit ba yung result mo, etc. Also here, you need to Yung good example ko, bad example pa rin. You align all the plus and plus minus and minus signs. So, dapat aligned ito to make it a good example. And lastly, use 1,000 separators like this one for easier visualization of your data. Also, you have this, do not leave any data cell empty. So if it is not available, you just remove that part already. So missing values should be identified as either not available or not applicable and not as NA here. Or you can just remove it already if it's not available. For graphs are more appropriate than tables for showing approximate values. Actually, graphs, if you do poster presentations, mas gusto nila yon. And it shows you already the overall relationships in data. Whereas for your tables, these are appropriate for reporting exact values and specific comparisons. For example, in this figure, you can already see here the trend. Here it will be, you can see it, but it's hard to see it at first. So here, a graph with only 3 data points is not recommended if you will do publications, but is appropriate for a slide or a poster, which must be large, simple, and concise like this. So for this one, a graph showing a lot of data is a good use of space in publications, but can be too detailed for a slide or poster. So what does this mean? Masyado siyang mahirap i-explain during a presentation. So also make sure all the essential graph elements are presented. You have your legends there. Providing enough metadata prevents your graph from being misinterpreted or misrepresented. Next, we go to your discussion. So at this stage, your allotted time is already running out. That's why normally I put the results and discussion together. So you want only to focus on your main findings only. So you compare findings. This is only the preferred style. You compare your findings with published studies. So you do not limit comparisons to published studies that align with your own results. You also present the conflicting studies as well. So for example, sinabi ni Marites A na ganito, pareho siya dun sa result mo, pero sinabi ni Marites B, hindi daw ganon. So you also provide a conjecture of the similarities and differences, but be sure to tie these conjectures with data at hand. So you discuss also possible explanations for your findings. This happened because this and this. Then you present the strengths of your study, and you also elaborate on the weaknesses or the limitations of your study. So for the conclusion, often they put the discussion and conclusion together. But for me, I always separate the conclusion. This normally just answers your question. So you explain how also your work advances the present state of the knowledge and suggests future research. So for your references, we know that in your final paper, final book, thesis book, that you have so many references, but for your presentation, do not use too many references. So always ensure you have fully absorbed the material you are referencing. You also avoid excessive self-citations. And self-citations meaning you have one study before, and then you use this, you cite it under this study again, and you have another one, you cite it again. So avoid excessive self-citations. Also avoid excessive citations of publications from the same region or institute. For example, all from UP College of Pharmacy, yung citations ninyo. So that's not also good. And lastly, under the second part of this talk is the credits or acknowledgement. Normally, we skip this part kasi kulang na yung 7 minutes or the 10 minutes. So, but if you do have time, acknowledge the following: the funders or financial supporters, the agency that funded your paper, other members of the research team who do not qualify as your co-authors, mga consultants ninyo, stakeholders and community partners, and also your research participants. So for the third part of this talk is under the principles of slide design. So it's actually common sense already for the slide designs, but these are just the tips that I can give you. Keep the number of slides to a minimum. Listen to teacher. Yes, baby, I'm the teacher, okay? Keep the number of slides to a minimum. One slide is the 1 minute. So if you have a 10-minute talk, you have uh 10 slides, or let's say 11 because you still have the opening slide, or 12, you have the end slide. Next is choose font styles that can be read by the audience from afar. So normally we limit it to 7 bullets only, not like this, 8 bullets. Choose font sizes that can be read. Yun na pala yun. Use bullet points or short sentences instead of paragraphs and keep these to one line only. Bullet points. That's how I do it in every part of my presentation slides. Use Use art to help convey your message, but do not overwhelm audience with unnecessary graphics. For example, you have drawing for every word that you mention. So not like that. Normally, my graphics is one for the background of the study, and then the schematic diagram, that's the second one. Then the third, fourth, fifth are the graphs or tables already. That's it for the art. Then ensure that labels for charts, graphs, and tables are present and understandable. Use a subtle slide background consistently. So normally, I suggest, this is what also my fellowship professors say, you use a white background. Use high contrast between background color and font color. So this is a good example of high contrast between your background color and font color. Then the fourth part, since I don't have enough time, is presenting effectively. So how do we present effectively? So I'll talk about the essentials, beyond the essentials, dealing with stress, answering the questions. So one expectation again from you guys. After the talk, I expect myself to know a few tips and tricks on how to confidently present my own studies to the public since I struggle with public speaking. We all start with, we don't know how to speak and even say or present ourselves from the opening slide itself. I've been there. So hindi ka nag-iisa, whoever um responded with this. So even the good speakers now, or the expert ones in presenting their researches, have struggled with public speaking. And then they had already the what do you call that? They already know what to do. From the first presentation, they already know what they should prepare. From the second one, they learn what they need to prepare more. The third presentation, uh, they already have the script. They just change how it goes. Fourth, fifth, until they are experts already in presenting their research studies. So we say practice makes perfect. So have a script. So lahat tayo may script. I myself, I have scripts when presenting, but I don't have it during the presentation already. So first is the essentials. So make sure you can be heard by everyone. So my presentation 2 years back, under PNHRS pa rin, I opted to have the microphone away from the PowerPoint slides near the audience because I cannot be seen because I'm small, hindi ako nakikita sa podium. So, doon ako malapit sa panel of judges and the audience. So, make eye contact with the audience. So, may trick ito. You look at their um, between their eyebrows. You can look directly to your audience and look uh, between their eyebrows so that you make eye contact with them. And then speak slowly and deliberately. Huwag akong gagayahin like now na nagmamadali. So speak slowly and deliberately. So that's why you need to have a script because you only have 10 minutes and you cannot rush talking so that you can cover all those things that you need to talk about. You need to cut down the things that you think are not essential anymore. If they think that's important, yung kinat down mo, they can ask it during the Q&A. Next is if you find it difficult to start off your talk, memorize the first few sentences or more, or write them in cue cards. Next is use the active voice as much as possible. We found, we designed, we analyze. We don't normally appreciate sole authorship na siya lang ang gumawa nung study na yon. Because we need collaborators. Hindi ka expert ng lahat. So, suppose marami kayo doon, dapat, sa isang research or study. So, we found, we designed, we analyze. Then, if you misspeak, correct yourself calmly and keep going. And then end your talk clearly. This ends my presentation and thank you for your attention. Actually, before I end my talk, normally I give a quote first again before saying that this ends my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I'm ready for your questions, recommend questions. Next is beyond the essentials. So be relaxed. Relax tayo. Choose deliberate postures and face the audience. As I've said kanina, first impressions, last. So pag pasok mo pa lang, kailangan ah, ang clothing mo well prepared. Hindi ito gusot-gusot when you will be presenting face to face. Yung camera mo maganda kapag Zoom ang presentation. Yung phone mo or your microphone mo is okay. You practice it also. So face to face, you also can move around the stage when possible. I do this always. Nakakatanggal ng tension. Be yourself and show your passion. So, kung gusto mo talaga yung study mo, you're passionate about it, it will show. Mafe-feel yun ng mga panelists ninyo. Look for reactions of the audience and intervene if needed. Jokes, anecdotes, and personal stories can make your talk lively and engage the audience. But this is not for every speaker. This is not for me. I cannot. I cannot give jokes. So, hindi ako magaling dyan. And also, watching a recording of your talk can be very helpful. Although I don't do this most of the time since nagka-cram ako. Pero parang sanay tayo dyan eh. Pag-graduate ka ng UP, sanay na sanay ka sa mga cramming kasi marami kang ginagawa in life. So parang effective ako pag nagka-cram ako, nakakatapos ako ng kailangang gawin. So, but that's not a good tip for everyone. This is a better one. You record yourself. Tingnan mo, parang sa akin, I don't record myself kasi hindi medyo maganda yung boses ko. So, lagi nilang pinapansin yon. So, especially watching a recording, last pandemic, 2 years back, I made several recordings where I can see my face. through the PowerPoint video. So you will see here that I did not put my face on it. Kasi naging conscious ako when like my PowerPoint videos or my YouTube videos are are known to different institutions. So when there are um students going to our laboratory and asking us to do services, "Ay ma'am, kayo pala yung ganito. Kayo pala yung ganito ma'am, 'di ba? Napanood ko kasi yung YouTube video niyo." So parang na-conscious ako diyan although, yun nga ang sinasabi ng mga colleagues ko, even my husband is ibalik ko yun. Mas okay na nakikilala ka. One way again to market yourself. So maybe soon, not now, na ibabalik ko yung mga videos ko na meron akong mukha doon. Okay, this is a question from you guys. What is the best way to improve my presentation skills? Uh, so I actually copy pasted my answers here already. You practice. Again, practice makes perfect. Have seminars, several seminars. Even to participant ka lang or observers, marami ka mapipick up sa mga seminars and talk to experts. This will make you confident and actually improve your presentation skills. So dealing with stress before the talk, being nervous before a talk is completely normal. Kahit ako, and for even for experienced speakers, kahit pa sobrang prepared ko, I still feel nervous before a talk. And then I think that's just seconds and then mawawala na siya. So you need to seconds kasi I channel my stress. This is the second bullet. You go through the talk in your head rather than worrying about it. So iniisip ko na kung what's next, what's next, what's next. Next is assure yourself that you are well prepared. Ito kahit hindi ako well prepared, I assure myself na after dito tapos na. That's it. During the talk, make your slides as self-contained as possible so that you only have to say less. So I don't do this kasi I don't want reading yung slides ko. So itong self-contained, andun na yung mga sasabihin mo. You have cues there sa mismong slides mo. So that you don't have cue cards. Hindi kasi maganda sa akin yung may hinahawakan ka during your presentation. That's a no-no. That's not a good impression. So as as much as possible, you have minimal slides, but your slides are very like self-explanatory already. You can go around your slides already so that you have to say less. Konti na lang yung sasabihin mo kasi andun na yun eh. Napakita na sa slide ko yung figure or yung trend. I just need to highlight it. Then do not rush your transitions. So summarize your current slide in a way that sets up the next slide. So hindi maganda yung nag-rush during a research presentation also. That's why, for example, from the background of the study, pupunta ka na agad sa methods. So you need to finish your background of the study with the research question that you're trying to answer. And this is how I will answer it through the methods. So you have a transition and then from the methods, ito naman yung results na nakuha namin. You need to practice the transition also. Then look initially more often at friends or familiar faces in the audience. I do this. Look for nodders for that extra boost of confidence. So actually, nabuboost talaga yung confidence ko when I have that, like, a person that nods during my presentation. Parang, oo, naiintindihan ko. Ay, yes, you're doing good. And then lastly, be confident. Remember, no one knows your study well but you. So you are the expert in that area. So another expectation, I'm expecting to gain tips on how to leave a lasting impression to audience to get that winning pitch. So I think this is the part where you will give that lasting impression Because normally 80% is the study itself. Kung hindi naman talaga maganda yung study mo, wala naman talaga siyang impact, you will not win at all. 20% is how you present it. Parang yun na lang yung last straw mo to win that contest or research competition. So this is where parang pageant lang. This is the part where you know that you will win. Answering the questions. Pag maraming tanong sa'yo, ikaw ang panalo. Ganun parati sa research. Pag walang tanong sa'yo, hindi na intindihan. Ganun yon. So, repeat and often rephrase the question to the audience. For example, the judge asks you a question. Do not answer the question to the judge only. Parang pageant nga. You answer the question and you answer it, give your answer to the audience. Also, be courteous. Admit when you do not know the answer. Do not make things up. Normally, what I say about this is it's a limitation of the study, and I will thank the panelists or the judge on that recommendation or suggestion that we can include this to better our research. So, or you can say, great question, but I'm afraid I do not have the answers now. You answer concisely because remember, even the Q&A portion is timed. So, go straight to the point. Yung parang exam lang yan sa College of Pharma. Sa Blue Book natin, kahit pa yung isang question, isang 2 pages yung sinagot mo doon. 0.5 lang yung score mo. Pero yung isang classmate mo, 3 sentence lang yung sinagot niya, 10 points siya. Parang ganun yun. Go straight to the point. Avoid using the question as extra time to put in all the content you left out. You only answer what is asked. Next is check whether you answered the question satisfactorily. You ask actually your panelists if you've answered the question or is that the answer that you're looking for. Next is be graceful when you decide to sidestep an irrelevant question. Also divert if an individual insists on repeating a question or contends everything you say. You can say, it looks as if we do not agree on this point rather than taking up the time of the whole group. I'm happy to discuss this with you afterwards. So I don't have time already. As a summary, the talk is about planning your oral presentation, structure and content of the presentation, principles of slide design, and presenting effectively. These are my references, and thank you for watching and listening to my talk.